Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be here for the November 2018 Attorney Computer Systems PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting. There, I got it all there in the right order. And if we get to the end and I wish you Merry Christmas, well, just smack me because I seem to be thinking that it's December today. At least I did in the Tabs 3 Virtual User Group meeting. Today, we're talking about data file integrity checks, what that means, what it checks, how to interpret the results, and also, since this is PracticeMaster, we're going to throw in a little bit of information on search indexing because that's kind of one of those things that goes along with the DFIC. Mary Jo's going to take that topic, and I am going to talk about sample data, how to use it so that you can play with things without messing up your real data. And so now, without further ado, I am going to press all of the magic buttons, not just one magic button, not just two magic buttons, but all of the magic buttons that are necessary to get us out to a point where we can then slip into PracticeMaster and Mary Jo can talk about the DFIC check.
Okay, so most people are always asking me all the time, what do I do at month end? What am I supposed to do? What reports am I supposed to run? What maintenance activities do I need to do? And the number one thing that I always tell everybody that they should run monthly is a data file integrity check. And a lot of people don't know exactly what is that and what is it checking and so on. Well, it's just like the name says, it's checking your data's integrity. And what that means is it's going, and we're going to take PracticeMaster, since this is our PracticeMaster bug, and talk about some things that would check in PracticeMaster. So it's going to look through all of your records, everything that's in here, every data entry information that you've put in, and it's going to check those records. For example, calendar. It may look at the calendar and make sure that you have a valid task code assigned, that it has a valid user assigned. A lot of times I've seen firms where they'll go in and somebody's left the firm and they'll go delete the user out of system configuration. Well, that breaks the link in all of those records that that user was assigned to. So that would throw a data file integrity check error that it can't find that user anymore because it's invalid, it's gone. So just a caveat side note, we don't ever want to go just delete users because that causes all kinds of problems. So that's one of the things that it would check. It could also check fee entries, and it could make sure that if you had a client set as task bill, that they're actually having task codes in there. A lot of times we'll enter a client at the beginning, and that client will then later get changed to a task-based billing client, and we've already entered time in there that didn't have task codes. It would find those for us in that data file integrity check. And I say that because we can also enter time in PracticeMaster, and so it catches those same errors that it would catch in tabs with those fees. It could also check journal notes. It can make sure that emails that had attachments still have those attachments in the same record as that email for whatever reason, if those got separated or so on. So there's a lot of things that it checks, and it's something we want to look at on a monthly basis so that we can catch those things and correct them right away. The bottom line is every time we run this data file integrity check, we want to see 0 errors come up. We don't want any errors on that report. And if that's what it comes up as 0 errors, we're good to go, and we can just go do it again next month. So when we run the data file integrity check, it's always going to be underneath our utilities menu up here at the top, and it is the data file integrity check here. It's our second option in PracticeMaster. You also can type in your search data file integrity check. It will come up there as well. And when we come in here, it's going to tell us that everybody needs to be out of the software. So right now I'm in sample data, and I don't have anybody else in here. But data file integrity checks are things that are exclusive in the program. So we do want everybody out of the software to run these. When you say OK in PracticeMaster, you have the ability to check the box to check the email attachments. That's what I was talking about, if they become orphaned somehow and they're not connected to my journal record or something weird's happened, this is going to catch that. So when we run this and say OK, it's going to tell me that I'm in tabs. So apparently we must still be in tabs, Paul. Do you have it open on? There it is. I see it right here.
There it is.
Yep, I'm going to close out of that. So you see all the programs, you got to have everybody out. So there we go. We're going to get out of that. All right, and now it's running that data file integrity check. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it because I know I'm in sample data. There's not a lot of data, but you're going to want to make sure you leave yourself enough time to run this. Now, depending on how big your data set is, this could take quite a while. And so we want to make sure that
hours.
Well, some firms, yeah. There's some firms that are really, really big data sets that could take a while. I'd say the average is probably going to be, I don't know, anywhere from 15 minutes to half hour tops. I mean, usually they're pretty quick, but if you've got a lot of, if you know you've got a large data set, leave yourself enough time. So here we are. I've got my error box, and I have 69 errors in my sample data. So I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to preview it. And it's going to tell me all of my different errors that it found in this particular run of the data file integrity check. And it will always tell me what file it found it in. It will tell me the file title, and it will also tell me the field that's in question. There will always be, well, not always, but there's most of the time there is a record number in this column. And then if there is a client associated with that record, it will show up in this final column. So you'll know where to go to fix these. Now, if I can drill down on these, I can actually drill down into the record, and I can fix it right from here. Now, the only thing is that when I come back, I can't refresh this window. You have to actually rerun the data file integrity check for it to refresh and fall off that particular list. So I have two that are in my journal file. I have a couple in my fee file. This is that phase task activity code I was telling you about. This particular error is saying that, it was, there's two entries that were out here that were entered with transaction codes and not phase task codes. Those are missing and need to have those put in. We've got a workflow error. And then there's a bunch of people errors. So there's some issues with some contact IDs. Again, maybe a contact was deleted or something and it can't find that contact anymore that was linked to a people record. So these are some different examples. Now, the number one thing that I like to look at in here is what the actual error code is. Because if I need to find out how to fix this error code, this is important. I need to know that it's an error code 174 or 171 and so on. Because there is a knowledge base article out there that we can go out to and just type in DFIC error 174, and we can go find how to fix that error as well. Now, I'm going to go in and just drill down. I can see this first one for the journal has a date time error. So I'm going to click on that record. And when I come in, you can see it's got some weird duration in here. I don't even know what's going on with that. So I'm going to just take, it looks like something was actually pasted in there that was wrong. So something's happened with this field. So if we delete all that out, and we're in sample data, so I can't delete it. But if you were in regular data, you could delete. Paul's going to talk more about that. But there is a duration that's incorrect here. And it's actually coming in from a different field. So it's a virtual field. So it's come in probably from a timer record or a phone task that was timed. So in sample data, it's difficult to show you that, I would be able to go in and fix that duration in here and then save the record, and that would eliminate the error the next time I ran that particular data file integrity check. So this, you can see there's some like weird data in there. It was very obvious as to what was going on. And it's not going to let me out of there. I'm going to just cancel out of that record to get back here. Phase task, very common error. You can see there was probably a T code at one point. It's missing the phase and task code, and phase, task, and the activity code. So all you have to do is put those in. Choose something in there, and then that's going to go ahead and it will fix that problem. Now I'm just grabbing two things randomly, throwing it out there, changing my rate, and recalculating my amount and saving it. There we go. So that error would then be fixed, okay, and I can move on. So you can see you can print this error list, or you can work from the screen, but while I have this open, people cannot still, they're locked out of the system right now. So I tend to go ahead and I will just print this out, print it to a file, whatever you want to do, and then you can come back and you can work on these. You've got the record number here so that if you need to just load these in and fix them, you can do that. So an example of how to work with it that way is I know this phase task code is record number 3421. When I get out of here, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of my data file integrity check. If you go up to your edit, file, open, I'm going to go out to that fee file because I knew it was in the fee file. It tells me that. And once I'm in the list tab here and I click edit, there's actually a load record option. You can go to the load record option and you can put in that record number, and I've already forgotten what it is, 3241 I think, and say okay, and it will take me to whatever that record is, and I can put the phase task code in or activity code or whatever it is that I needed to fix. So whenever there's a record number listed, file open, if it was in the calendar file, I could go there, if it was in another file, so you can correct those errors that way. If you go out to your help and go into your internet resources, knowledge base, this is where you can type in the DFIC error, and then if it was 721 or whatever those errors were, you can come in and put that in search, and it will tell me, and I think I had the number wrong.
151.
151, yeah, thank you. I was like 721's a little high, that can't be right. 151, whatever that error is, it will give you how to fix those particular things. So when we get into that error, sometimes there will be a couple different 151s. One might be for tabs, one might be for PracticeMaster. You'd find whatever program you're in, and it gives you a resolution. Now, we do this all the time, so if you ever have a problem with an error and you're not quite sure what to do with it, we can help you with those very easily. So the goal is to get these down to 0. We don't want to have data file integrity check errors on the system. Sometimes there will be a lot of those phase task ones. I've seen firms with hundreds of them. You still want to clean those up, even if that's something you're not going to bill ever again or whatever. You still want to go in and you want to make sure that you get those off of your list and that that data file integrity check is 0. And the reason I say that is, you would see hundreds of those errors on there and know, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about those. And somewhere, maybe the next run in the middle of those 100 errors or whatever is another error that you didn't see because they were all lumped together and you missed the one that it popped in the middle of that batch of them. It puts them in random things. It doesn't group all of your 151 errors and here's your 152 error. It doesn't do that. And so when you come on in here, you don't want to ever miss an error that might even be more critical than not having those task codes on clients you're not going to bill. So you want to clean those up. It is important, and I highly recommend that you do that. So I think we have a question here. So, Patty?
Yes. What is your sense for the accuracy or usefulness of DFIC for user create record types?
Create record user. So there is a record. If you're entering time for Bob, Bob's the timekeeper, but it keeps track of your user ID as the create user. And so if your user ID gets deleted, you're going to get that. Mm-hmm. I think that it's important that you not delete a user because that's going to create a lot of problems, and one of them is that type. But I think what the person's asking is, does it matter? Well, it only matters in the system's integrity. It doesn't matter that the person that created the record isn't there anymore, or the record's not there anymore.
I still think, I want my data file integrity checks to be 0.
I
think
agree.
all errors matter, and if you've deleted a user, you can simply go back and create that user again. Whether you put their name in or not, just create the user ID,
and mark them
no
inactive.
password, mark them inactive, and they're no longer a login user. And then they no longer show up to put them on a calendar list or anything like that. You don't see them anywhere as long as you uncheck the box for login user and you make them inactive. And that will eliminate those errors off of the data file integrity check. And then you still maintain that connection, that there was a user at one point that had those initials. I don't take any of the errors lightly. As much as you think they might be irrelevant, like those task codes, they're going to bill those people, why do I care? The data file integrity check is a useful tool, and I never want to miss something important. I just want it all clear.
Right.
I want a 0 error data file integrity check. So hopefully that helps. I do think it's important to look at all of them and get a 0 result.
Mainly because you don't want to miss something else.
Right. Right. It's very easy for something to slip in there, and I've seen it.
I will agree
times.
that there are errors that are less important. One of the things we deal with a lot is are these errors that we're encountering today going to stop us from upgrading this from version 19? And we make a decision based on that. Well, no, we can go ahead and install the update, but you still need to correct the errors. So, you know, there are different levels of severity, but I wholeheartedly agree with what Mary Jo's saying about having a clean DFIC means that everything's solved and that you're not going to miss something that is severe because you've got all this really not all that important stuff muddying up the report.
Mm-hmm. The last thing I want to talk about really quick is another month-end procedure that happens a lot, and sometimes it's even one of the corrections for a data file integrity check error, and that is to rebuild the search indexes. So this is done underneath the search option at the top menu under search settings, and again, this is an exclusive task that is done when all users are out. I do this monthly. And it tells you in here what it's doing. It's just going to optimize that automatic index, and it's going to optionally remove any of those deleted records from the indexes. And I take them out. If it's a deleted record that I've deleted in here, I don't need it in my index anymore. I do all three, and then I also check the remove the deleted records. And then every month I'll run this rebuild. And again, depending on how big your data set is, give yourself enough time. I also find that if you do this on the server, it's quicker than doing it from a workstation. So if you've got a large data set and you want to go make sure you run that from the server, you could do that if you have those right and permissions. But that is another one that I would do monthly.
And while you're talking about that, running a DFIC from the server will be faster
yes,
as well.
Both. Anything you run from the server would be faster in that regard, but that will definitely speed up some things. So sometimes you don't have all three of these depending on what type of PracticeMaster you have. So I tend to have these three. I've got a regular PracticeMaster license. If you have a basic, you don't have the bottom two options. So it just depends on what you have. If you don't have all three, that's why. But you run the ones that you have. And then rebuild now and say, okay, that will be done. And then that will change the date to the last time you did it. Again, we run all of these in all programs. So the search index is just in PracticeMaster, but the data file integrity check we run in all programs every month. So just our recommendations for month end and data file integrity check.
And so Mary Jo talked about sample data and why she wasn't able to do something because we're in sample data. Not many people know that everyone has sample data. When you install tabs in PracticeMaster and AP and whatever programs you've installed, as part of the installation, sample data comes, whether you know it or not. And so the first question people always have is, well, how do I get to the sample data? Well, it's pretty simple. You get to your start menu, and whether you have a field, I hate the way Microsoft changes this with every release of Windows, but if you just start typing tabs 3 and maybe go a little further and space S, AMP, the farther you type, and as you can see, we've got tabs 3 with sample data up here. Now I've got 3 of them because we've got 3 different systems that have sample data. We're not going to go there. You will have one. And if you just click on that, you're running a copy of tabs 3 with sample data. Now we're in PracticeMaster, so let me go back there and do the same thing. And just type PracticeMaster. Sample, and so there we have it, PracticeMaster with sample data. And when you get in here, I'm pretty certain that you will just be taken in. You won't be asked to sign in. If you are, we recommend signing in as Ron. Ron is one of the users in the sample data that has manager rights and has the ability to do lots of neat stuff and has data, so it makes sense. So why would you want to do this? Why would you want to play with the sample data? A lot of reasons. Have you ever thought, well, you know, what if I did this? What would happen? And then you're like, well, I don't want to do that on my real system. I don't want to mess anything up. Go do it in the sample data. Play with how bills look. Play with how you're entering fees if you want to make them non-billable. Do you leave the hours worked at 1 and change the hours to bill to 0? Would you leave both of them at 1 and then change it to non-billable print on statement? Play with those different options and all the other different scenarios that you can come up with in the sample data to see how things work. Then you can take what you've learned and apply it to your real system without having ever put your real system in jeopardy of being played with. You know, I always tell people the way to learn something is to play with it and to just try it out. If it doesn't work, you change it back. This is kind of like the same thing without having to worry about changing it back. It's just we call it a sandbox. It's a sandbox to play in that has a complete data set that's all ready to go with all sorts of different scenarios and your ability to create other scenarios. Now, naturally, there are some limitations. So I'm going to take you out to the knowledge base. And if we go to the knowledge base, as Mary Jo did, you can just from the menu go to Help, Internet Resources, Knowledge Base. It'll bring you here. I happen to get right up to here, supports.tabs3.com. And that brings you to this main screen. And if you simply type sample data, one of the things you're going to find is the sample data and starter data resources. Now, if you're a person that knows how to get straight to a KB article, this is KB article. Let me move my GoToWebinar out of the way. Mary Jo, can you tell what that KB article is? There we go. I got it now. It's R11696. So if you know how to, get your how to go straight to an article, it's R11696, or you can just come in and type sample data and get to this. But when you get to this sample data resources, the trial software information and limitations is going to tell you what limitations you have with the sample data. And so in PracticeMaster, you can have 30 clients or matters. You can have 100 new calendar records. You can have 50 journal records, 100 contacts, 30 records on any other files, except fees, costs, and certain others that are unlimited. And you cannot run a data file integrity check, and you cannot delete records. There actually are a couple other things you can't do that aren't listed here, like Mary Jo, you can't. I don't think you can update statements. There's a couple things that'll basically keep you from using this. Yeah, that's tabs too. You're right. Thank you. There are a couple other things, but these are the biggies as far as what limitations you have on how many records you can get into a file. So be careful. It is possible to reinstall the sample data, but it's not something that we're going to cover here because it goes beyond the scope of what we're talking about, or the scope of the, what certain people's capabilities are or rates are. But just be careful, know what your limitations are. Don't go playing to the extent that you've exhausted all the new clients and matters you can add. And if you could just add one more, you could finish your testing, but you didn't, you added some others that you didn't need to, and you don't have room now. So that's that. Sample data, very easy to get to, very easy to play around in. I'd recommend that you close down the regular software and then go into the sample data, kind of draw a firm line between reality and the sandbox so that you know where you are at all times. But other than that, the sky's the limit. I mean, you really can do virtually everything and play with just about everything and figure out everything that you need to figure out before you get it into the live data. Patty tells me we have a question. Patty?
Michelle would like to know if templates assemble with sample data.
They do. They do. We have, you may have to point to them. For instance, if you go into the sample data PracticeMaster and go to assemble a, document, there we go. Let me make this a little bigger so that everybody can see. You may, when you get into, you may have to go point to the right document because it may be pointing to sample data, and so you may need to then point to the real data, a real list of documents. But if you understand how to code documents and you're playing with documents in the sample environment, then you probably know how to get to the document that you want to assemble. But yes, it should work just fine. It's not a different data set per se. One thing to keep in mind is that if you've made modifications to your live system, those modifications don't show up in the sample data set. So I guess I'd have to go one step further in answering this question and say, I don't really see a need to use sample data to test document assembly, because with document assembly, you're really relying on your files set up and the fields that you've added and files that you've added to your PracticeMaster to pull the information from the right place. And so it could be very difficult to test document assembly from sample data. Now, if you want to play with document assembly, how do I do this? What happens if I use this logic? Great. The sandbox and the sample data is a great place to do that. But if you're actually testing documents, they'll be run against your live data set. The live data set's probably the right place to do that. Okay, that is that. Next month, we are going to talk about the daily report, not the television show, but the daily report in PracticeMaster. Mary Jo's going to take that topic. And I'm going to talk about convert to fee settings, how to make sure you have all your convert to fee settings set the right way so that when you go to convert something to a fee, you get the right results, or you get results that are the same as what you would expect to be getting. And of course, if you've ever been to one of our virtual user group meetings before, you'll know you're not allowed to leave. You cannot leave until I take you to the website to show you how to get to all the really good content that we have. And here I've gone and typed wrong. Let me try this again. I'm getting.
Paul, while you were doing that, I just had a follow-up question from Patty that she emailed me. So it was on the DFIC, and I think I can just answer this for him. The question that we had, we misunderstood. So his question was actually, what is the accuracy, usefulness of data file integrity check for record types that have been defined by a user, like created in file maintenance fields? And so it is still useful and accurate. And my example would be like our people file. We create a people file and we add all kinds of different things to the people file. And the DFIC still picks up if something is wrong with that.
For instance, if we have the role list restricted to the drop-down, and we have a record that's got a value that's not in the drop-down, it will report that.
It would do that. Or if there was a contact in the people file or something like that that wasn't supposed to be there. So it is you looking at those things that you create in file maintenance. So hopefully that answered it this time, and if not, just send us an email and let us know. But I thought I'd catch that real quick before we ended the webinar while Paul was looking. So.
Well, Paul's trying to figure out how to get this to type right. So if you go to attorneycomputersystems.com, noticing, of course, the emphasis on the last S in the word systems, and then you click on the word videos in the menu, you will end up at a page that lists all 6 of our video titles. And the first 4 that you see listed there are live events. We have our 3 virtual user group meetings, PracticeMaster, which you're in now, tabs 3 and World Docs. I also have my Coffee Pot webinar series, which is also a live event, where I invite somebody in each month from a company that has a product that adds value to either tabs or PracticeMaster or World Docs. And we get them to talk about their product and explain what it does and how it adds value. Those are live events. And then we also have our 2 pre-recorded titles. Mary Jo has her eBytes video series. We record 3 of those each month. She records 1 on tabs, 1 on PracticeMaster, and 1 on World Docs. These are little 2 or 3 minute videos, maybe 4 minutes, where we take something really cool that we think everybody should know that we can explain very quickly, and we put it out there. For those things that are more broad in nature or require a deeper dive into all the nuts and bolts, we have what we call the Paul and Mary Jo Show, where Mary Jo or I take a topic that I say is broader or requires a deeper dive, and we'll spend a longer bit of time. We'll spend 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes getting to the base of all that's to be known about that topic. If you click on any of the live events or the non-live events, but we'll show you what the difference is. If it's a live event, everything will have its title and a description of what that particular video series is. If it's a live event, the item at the top will be the next month's thing. With 2 links to register that are identical. They take you to the same place. It's just that some people like to click on something that shows them where they're going, not something that shows them something different. As you scroll down, if it's a live event, you will eventually get to pre-recorded versions of everything we've done in the past. This is the one that you're in right now, and so it's currently listed as being in post-production, because what that means is that Brad has not even gotten it yet. And as soon as Brad's done putting his finishing touches on it and making it look as pretty as can be, then it gets released to the website. You can always browse, as I'm doing right now, but you can also search if you wanted to know how to take an email and journal it to PracticeMaster. You might type the word email and either wait for the short list to pop up or hit enter and get directly to the long list with a little bit more detail, and simply click on whatever it is that you want to go to, and you're there. So these videos are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Please take advantage of them. We have somewhere between 800 and 900 videos on the site right now, and we add about anywhere between 10 and 12 videos each month. So a lot of content, a lot of neat stuff out there, and we're always adding to it. So with that, I will say everybody have a good rest of the month. I will not wish you happy holidays like I did last in the tabs bug, because I have now learned that we're not in December yet, we're in November. But what the heck, happy holidays. I'll wish it to you again next month. Everybody have a good rest of the day, rest of the month, and we will see you in December. Thanks much. Bye-bye.